it's really my time to do what I've waited to do for so many years, which is reintegrate with the Navajo tribe, to learn as much as I can about my culture, which I couldn't do before. So coming back here was so important, and reconnecting with the land, reconnecting with my culture, with the artisans, with the elders, with the children. It just filled my heart.
Hi, it's Steph, and that was the voice of Amy Yeung. This episode is about authenticity. It's about learning about self. It's about heritage and possibilities. Yet at the same time, it's about we, not me. Amy has answered a calling to help others by blending art, fashion, design, community, giving, learning, and being. Amy had decades of experience as a fashion designer and is now the owner of a company called Orenda Tribe. On the Orenda Tribe website, Amy says, I am deeply committed to helping Indigenous makers and artists find opportunities to create with Orenda Tribe. She goes on to say, Arenda Tribe is made up of a community of hands working together to craft each unique piece and carry the stories of another time to you. We are a small team of artists and makers around the world, including Indigenous artists from Dinata, the Navajo homeland. We are lovers of old things, inspired by the energy of vintage textiles. With each Arenda Tribe garment, we creatively approach the upcycling process to repurpose for the future. And so through her work, she is also weaving a more complete personal fabric. I can't wait for you all to hear from Amy. Real quick, thank you to all of you for listening to Another Door Opens and for your ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and for sharing it with friends and followers. I see your feedback and reviews and appreciate every single one. To my Patreon supporters, thank you for believing in this podcast and choosing to back it. I appreciate you. All right, get your shoes on and head out for a walk in a wide open space, or perhaps move around and stretch a little indoors today as you listen. This is the Another Door Opens podcast, and I'm your host, Stephanie Hamango. Here is Amy Yeung.
So my name is Amy Yeung, spelled A-M-Y and then Y-E-U-N-G. I guess we can start with what I was called at birth, which was Infant Deal, D-E-A-L, which I'm actually considering changing my name back to that without the infant since I'm a grown-up.
Amy was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana in 1964 and was adopted at birth.
1964, they had no Indian Child Welfare Act in place, so Native children were being adopted out at that time without really contacting the birth mother's family. I was raised with a lovely non-Native family in Indiana and grew up there. So that's kind of where I started things.
Now with a 20-year-old daughter of her own named Lily, Amy is taking all that she learned from a career in fashion to help others and to know herself. She launched a company called Orenda Tribe a few years ago, and more recently, it has taken on new meaning. Amy recently moved to New Mexico, near the Navajo Nation, to get to know a part of herself that has been inside her and yet a mystery to her.
The name of my company is Orenda Tribe, O-R-E-N-D-A, Tribe. It's actually an Iroquois word, another tribe's word, but it meant so much to me in the sense that it means in each of us, there's this possibility to create positive change, to create change, and I was like, that resonated with me so much when I was just thinking, how can I be a better human? How can I be a better mom?
Amy wrote the following on her Orenda Tribe page. After a career of designing fast fashion clothing destined for landfills, I arrived at a place of creating with consciousness. I have long believed in sustainable design processes, handmade, restored, and repurposed vintage, one-of-a-kind upcycling of textiles. Orenda Tribe is built on these tenets and fueled by my desire to honor my indigeneity, to protect our sacred lands, and to help others.
Because we all have it in us. It's just finding the time and directing that energy someplace else besides all these other crazy things we get involved with day to day. Mostly things we're marketed to, things that we're told that we're supposed to do, things that we're told we're supposed to need to make us happy. And we all know after, really, if COVID-19 hasn't taught us anything, it's the fact that, happiness comes in a much different form. It comes from inside. It comes through our actions and how we find joy on a day-to-day basis. And it doesn't come in the form of an Amazon box or a new car or a better job or a new husband. It actually comes from inside of us and how we choose to live our life. So I've been working a lot on that because I spent a lot of time that I wasted time. So that's really my focus right now, is being authentically me, doing what I can for people, humanity, kids, elders. So it's been a complete and total reset of who I used to be.
I think what you said a second ago is something that a lot of us can relate to in many ways, is that when we look back at certain times in our life, we might feel like certain bits of time were wasted time. And maybe they weren't. Maybe they informed what we do now, or they informed, or
they were all part of the journey. It was important to go through those parts of my life and learn and actually have no regrets and be incredibly unapologetic for being an idiot, earlier on when I'm young. Because if you don't do things and fail, I don't think you're pushing hard enough out of your comfort zone. So that's just a value I tried to instill in my daughter as well, is like, don't get too comfortable, because you're never going to reach your full potential unless you lean into things that kind of make you, uncomfortable with how they are and how it feels. When Lily was born, it definitely changed the way I think, changed my DNA. I no longer had to make myself happy. I had to take care of a little one. So I think that's the transition in motherhood. It's almost a relief sometimes not to worry about yourself so much and be able to focus on your children. It certainly was for me, because I had gone down the path of a fashion career and chasing after high-paying jobs and thinking all that would make me happy. And actually, it made me very unhappy.
I wondered what that path of a fashion career looked like, and this is what Amy said.
I was an activewear designer for most of my career. I worked for really big companies like Puma and Reebok, and it's something for me that I really enjoyed, the creativity. But, our generation is really the one that has damaged the earth so much. So when I had my child, it just kind of made me think, okay, I want a better future for her, but it's going to come at a price, because I'm going to have to give up some of these things I'm doing to support the family, because I was a single mom. It was kind of a scary thought to actually give up my job and try to do something different. But I knew in my heart I couldn't keep doing things that were damaging the environment, that were taking advantage of areas of the world in production that I just didn't believe in the ethics of it. So I shifted into consulting, and I started shifting into sustainable consulting and small batch production made in USA, and was incredibly successful doing that, which eventually led that path into Orenda Tribe. And Orenda Tribe was just when I finally jumped off and said, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And I want to actually show my daughter that if you do what's in your heart, if you do what is authentically you, you can actually succeed in it. So Orenda Tribe was born in 2015 when my daughter was 15 years old. She and I worked on it together through high school. She was, the model, the muse, the really kind of creative director, because I was always just thinking of my daughter and, how to repurpose things. That was a wonderful journey for us together. And now that I have moved back to New Mexico and she's really on her own as a young adult, it's really my time to do what I've waited to do for so many years, which is reintegrate with the Navajo tribe, to learn as much as I can about my culture, which I couldn't do before. There was very little information. So coming back here was so important, and reconnecting with the land, reconnecting with my culture, with the artisans, with the elders, with the children. It just filled my heart. And that was last July. 6 months later, COVID-19 hits. And it was time that I just really stepped up and did what I came back for, which was being of service to community, being of service to the most vulnerable, helping out those that were in need. And I pivoted Orenda Tribe into more of a critical aid vehicle,
If you're not driving right now, this might be a great time to pull up the Arenda Tribe Instagram page to see the creative garments and jewelry and photography that they make, as well as some of the pandemic response work that they've been doing.
Orenda Tribe is basically a sustainable clothing brand. I didn't feel the need to produce new things. I love old stuff. I've been collecting old textiles and vintage clothing as long as I can remember all over the world. So Arenda Tribe started as my love affair with textiles as a complete 100% textile nerd. I just love the fact that I didn't have to do things new. I didn't have to do things the way I used to in corporations. I could just reimagine things already here on the planet. I want more people to do that. Then I moved to New Mexico. It's been a lifelong dream of mine to come home. And I had to wait until my daughter graduated high school. And just kind of being fearless and moving back here and letting go of all my belongings, really all my long-term friendships. They're back in the West Coast and starting fresh in a new place. And as scary as that sounds, it was like the most necessary thing in my life, that silence, that quiet that made me really define what I wanted to do. And I knew it was the children. I wanted to really work on getting children more involved in creative skills because I wanted to teach what I've learned over these 35 years in fashion. And there's not a lot of opportunities for our Diné children to actually branch into these areas of creative or really anything outside of the box. I knew that there was a huge inequity and I wanted to find long-term solutions for that. It's simply so I can invest more within my community, whether that means hiring young Diné artists and creatives to do the work we do, the beautiful work you see on Instagram and social media, to invest in our artisans that don't have a place to sell. I'd rather give them 100% of everything that we sell back because it's the time to be a good relative. My corporate training, my fashion training, everything I've learned in my life can be converted into very specific areas of change for the Navajo tribe.
And can you just explain Diné?
Oh, yeah. Diné, it means the people. It means how we speak of ourselves. That's what we call ourselves. And it's so funny because my whole life I refer to myself as Navajo. Because, again, I was brought up by non-native parents, and that's how everybody from the outside, it's Navajo Nation, it's Navajo people. But when you come back, you refer to yourself as Diné. It's D-I-N-E with a little accent on it. And that was a big transition when I moved back here because I hadn't said that word either. It was like, wow, have I really been saying it wrong all these years?
I think a lot of us can learn from this. You are willing to learn. You're willing to feel maybe the embarrassment of, have I said it wrong? Because we're all just learning as we go. So
Sister, I say things wrong all the time. Oh my! And it's hard. They're hard words to say. I always tell people I'm like a toddler. I'm like a year and a half old in Diné years. So I stumble around. I'm mesmerized by things, just like everyone else. The beautiful things, our culture, our art, they're like beautiful, sparkling things to me as well, because I don't understand yet all of the history of what is sacred to us. And that's an important part of our Instagram, is that we want to do this in a gentle way. We want to be teachers. We don't want to sit here and yell at everybody that hasn't been part of the Diné culture and say, oh my gosh, you guys are doing it all wrong and this is awful and this is terrible. Because I know, because I grew up in the public school system in Fort Branch, Indiana, I never got taught this stuff. So I understand why everyone else doesn't know this stuff either. We have to be better at communicating this as Navajo, as Diné. We have to be the communicators of our own culture and teach and do this in a kind way and a welcoming way. And I guarantee you, if we do a good job of that, all of the cultural misappropriation, it will go to the wayside because people will understand. In general, we all are part of this earth. We are all part of this planet. I happen to come from an Indigenous tribe, but I will reach my hand out to anybody that needs help. So we all need to do that.
Yes. Who have been some of your best teachers since moving to New Mexico?
Mother Earth and Father Sky. I have to say, living here on this land and being by myself a lot, being out on the reservation, I have developed this deep and profound connection to the land. It inspires me. It speaks to me. It's this feeling, this connection that we all should have. It's just a matter of being quiet and getting out there. We have this saying that we have, part of our new campaign is be still and the earth will speak to you. It's exactly how I find all the answers to all my problems, all my questions. It's really going out in nature and just being very quiet and finding that space inside ourselves to just let the answers flow in. The blue skies, the clouds, the red earth, the ochre, the sage, the rabbit brush. All these things are in me. They're part of me. So I'd say that's about 99.9% of things since I've moved home. Certainly all the matriarchs that I've met from my tribe, my dear ones that have been so patient with me. Like I said, I'm like a little baby asking stupid questions all the time. But I have a circle of friends that are Diné or even other tribes, Pueblo tribes, other tribes from the Southwest. They're so kind in explaining to me and patient and helping me say the words. So that's been an important part of my reintegration as well.
I want to ask you about infant Deal and when you became reacquainted with your birth mother, how that happened and what that meant to you.
Anybody that's adopted, I think we're always so curious of where we came from. I'm very fortunate that I got to meet my birth mother. But growing up in Fort Branch, Indiana, I was in the heart of the Midwest and there was really no other brown people. There were no other people like me. So I definitely always felt like I was an outsider. I had searched for my mother for so long, just through going back to the Bureau of Indian Affairs here in Navajo Nation. But because of the way the system runs, my lack of paperwork, whatever, I wasn't able to connect with her. Lo and behold, late 90s, the internet appears and it just allowed me to have that connectivity to do searches for her name and connect with government agencies I wouldn't have known about. And I wrote a letter to her where I thought was her address and actually got a response. And, after, I think that was probably when I was 35, 36 years old, I had that reconnect and met her for the first time. And just a peacefulness. That's all I can describe it. This person that looks like you. And I had half siblings that look like me. And we all have the same hands. We all have the same voices. It was just something that really allowed me to have this complete closure. Obviously, she didn't raise me. We don't have a lot of history. But she did take me back to the Navajo reservation. And it was her first time back since she had left in her youth. And that was kind of a traumatic experience for her. It certainly was for me because that's the first time I was like, people don't have electricity. People don't have running water. What? I was in such a state of shock about the crazy lack of infrastructure of Navajo Nation and to meet relatives that were, just struggling. It was really hard. I didn't understand that this wasn't, better known. And that's really when I started taking all the trips to New Mexico and just connecting, trying to find blood relatives. It was a hard road because as with the rest of Navajo Nation, there's high levels of addiction and historical trauma. And it's in my family. So it wasn't this amazing, welcoming, warm, situation. It came with consequences, it came with some sadness. And so that's just part of reintegrating. You have to accept both sides of things. For me personally, it made me much more fierce. There's a big stack of really nasty stuff that has to be looked at, but I'm down for it because I've spent my career looking at problems in companies and figuring things out for them and figuring out how to create wealth and create solutions. So this is really no different. It's just a refocus of a fashion entrepreneur visionary into a social entrepreneur solutionary. Same head, same mind, just refocusing and resetting. Just imagine if 20 people joined me and refocused on creating solutions. So that's what I'm down for. That's what I want to do.
Do you feel like what you did before prepared you for what you're doing now? Not only who you are and what you did, but the two combined.
Absolutely. I lived all over the world. So it was raising the kiddo was in West Coast and Sunshine. It definitely prepared me because that's the center of small batch production in the United States. That's where all of our fashion is being done in smaller, more sustainable factories and places. So that certainly was leading up to where I am now. It was also really joyful to me because I connected with so many makers and creatives that were like-minded. They were very socially conscious and they wanted better things for their kids and for the planet. And those connections, that following, those friends, those creatives have all been my biggest support in the social entrepreneurship I've done since I moved to New Mexico. It's such a solid base, and I'm so grateful that there's so many like-minded people that wanted to help. They just needed to know how. Yeah, that definitely led me to where I'm at now. Here in New Mexico, it's more that I'm head on with the problem. So I get to pivot on a daily basis and really decide what that is because I'm so close to it. So it's made us a very quick response critical aid group. And the fact that if somebody needs something like next week, if there's an outbreak or there's PPE needed or whatever that thing is, we can actually deliver it within, 7 to 10 days. So that's a pretty phenomenal operation as far as like the logistics and the way things work with Orenda Tribe. I'm working now with some of my best friends from the fashion industry. One of my best friends, Melissa Brannon, has been part of what we do for the last 7 months. You always need a strong business person behind every creative. So I couldn't be more grateful.
I saw you post something the other day just to give people a better feel of some of the nuts and bolts of what you do. I saw that Patagonia had donated a whole bunch of clothing. And so what happens once you receive that clothing? How is it repurposed? How is it upcycled and created into vintage wear with a brand new life?
There's lots of ways. Patagonia has been such an amazing support. I actually worked for a lot of these companies. I know what their warehouse space looks like. There's like rolls and rolls of fabric that are left over from previous seasons, or they came in slightly the wrong color. And they just sit there. So we ask to have those leftovers, those wonderful, yummy rolls of things. We've converted them into face masks, reusable face masks with our friend Bethany Yellowtail, using small batch production out of the LA area. We've done tens of thousands of them. I can't even keep track of how many we've made at this point. The other thing is that yummy fabric that we got this week was actually for making blankets for our unsheltered relatives, which is a very loving way to say it's for our homeless population that are Indigenous in a lot of our border towns. Temperatures are dropping right now. We wanted help. Patagonia said, hell to the yes, send it out here. We got 2 giant pallets of fabric, and our friends at Red Nation picked that up, and they're actually cutting those into blankets and doing distribution in the next couple weeks. So it's just beautiful community connections and friendships and families coming together. And, I could just do this every single day for the rest of my life because it feels good. It feels good to do something for other people. If anybody's depressed, if anybody's struggling with quarantine depression, my suggestion is maybe spend an hour today and help amplify people's causes you believe in. Just even amplifying, letting other people know that these causes are out there, or spend an hour doing something for someone else, whether that means driving and getting groceries for an elder or helping a family in need, whatever that is, just do something nice. And it helps. It takes the focus away from self and projects it outward. And that's what we all want, is that connection to humanity, that connection to other people.
And do you think in going back to New Mexico, connection is what you were seeking, maybe connection to self and connection to your heritage?
Definitely, it was a connection to heritage because it was something that was, I don't want to say it was taken away from me because that sounds so dramatic, but I just didn't get that opportunity to learn. And I've always been incredibly curious. I had to wait and not disrupt my family. It came at the right time. And I'm just so grateful for what I've achieved in this last year and a half of connecting and learning and being exposed to and all the tastes and all the colors and the blue corn fry bread and the pinyon nuts. And it just the Navajo tea. I remember I went and picked Navajo tea with a friend when it was in season. These are historical things we've done, my ancestors have done for centuries. And to actually be part of that gathering and to understand how to do that in a sacred way. It's just been I'm so blissed out at this experience. It's so powerful. I think the journey home for me, it was my soul journey. I just needed to reconnect. I needed to be on the land. I needed to be, like, when you think about the land, my ancestors' DNA literally is on the land and the ground I stand on. So there's not a more profound connection I would have than that experience, right? So, yeah,
it's very
so
deep.
Blessed. So blessed.
You're a brave person to go there and allow yourself to feel and allow yourself to discover what's within you. And you're doing it knowing it's not easy. And you're doing it knowing it's not pain-free, but you're doing it.
I try. I wouldn't really call it brave. I would call it being authentic. We all get told so many things we're supposed to be as women, as adults, as Americans. But I think it's so important to get down to that point, who you are and why you were put on this planet. My path was coming home full circle to where I came from. People can find that path in so many other ways. My path is just the way that I'm doing it, but it really is reflecting and spending the time in your life to decide why you're here on the planet, right? I highly encourage everyone to do that, because that's how we're going to have true change on the planet. That's how we're going to shift the way things are going, is through the unity of the community, of coming together as like-minded people and creating this positive change that needs so desperately to happen for our children. So that's just my jam.
In what ways are you using your brand, Orenda Tribe, for Indigenous empowerment?
That is such an interesting question. It's being used in any way possible to do that, because my whole focus that the brand is everyone that elevates and holds space and empowers and amplifies Indigenous voices. So that's really all my followers and all my friends and all my other like-minded people connected to that. They are Arenda Tribe. They are the ones that have raised close to $1 million for critical aid. They are the ones that gave close to $1 million in in-kind donation. They are the ones that have fed 1 million meals to our children this summer. So, I think it's everyone that has been part of what we do. So I can't really talk about the brand in a normal way, because it is just such a community-based vehicle. We love to use it to amplify and speak of important causes of needs. We love to empower our children and elevate them, and to elevate our young creatives and show what we can do in the world. I see that growing. I think it's just a powerful thing that everyone is joining into, as we understand that diversity and being inclusive is such an important part of who we are as humans, let alone as Americans, just as human beings. Yeah, we're just going to keep doing that thing that we do, and connecting with more and more like-minded people. And I'm just so proud of everybody for what we've accomplished, because it's not me, it's we, it's all of us.
Before I ask you the final question, I want to know where people can find you online. What are your social platforms? And is there a website if people are interested to learn more or to donate?
Our website is orindatribe.com. Lots of different areas you can shop there. There's just the Orenda Tribe shop, which has the beautiful, sustainable, upcycled textiles that we love doing. But we have some other really important places you can shop during the holiday season, which is our Spread Love, Shine Light auction, where 100% goes back to critical aid for our Dene communities. Sheep is Life is an area that we're giving back 100% to our sheep herders, to our weavers that have been impacted by COVID-19. Not having any place to sell. So we're offering spaces for people to sell where 100% goes back to them. We have our Get Involved section that really talks about these important areas of work we do with a Dalby Healing Shelter, a women's domestic violence shelter in Chinle, Arizona, that we've, with the help of everyone, have raised close to $200,000 to keep them open. But this is a vital community service as we're facing higher domestic violence during COVID-19. So we're very passionate about the work we do in that area to really just help our survivors and our children.
So my final question for you is, what do the words "another door opens" mean to you, if anything?
Another door opens. So I am a believer in light. I'm a believer in positive change. So for me, it's really creating that light space within darkness, to fill the world with positive change and open hearts and open minds and pure light that comes down. I mean, that's really what we're all trying to do, is just create that space in our universe, right? In our day-to-day life. So that's the biggest part for me of what Orenda Tribe does as a brand. It's spread love, shine light on a daily basis. I consider that like a daily meditation. As Dana, we wake up with the sunrise, we greet the sun to the east, and the whole day is actually kind of going through our 4 sacred mountains. We go through our infancy and our playful time, and then we go through our adulthood, our youth, where we're learning things, right? And then at the end of the day, we face the Obsidian Mountain, and that is our elder mountain. That really is where we reflect back at what that day was and what we learned. And, we go to bed and set the intentions the next day. So I feel like one door closing, one door open, it's something that it's a daily practice. Really for me is learning my culture, is that I'm always walking into what that next thing is that I'm supposed to be holding space for, and my heart is open, my mind is opened. So yeah, that's a daily practice. So it's kind of ever evolving.
I just really celebrate what you're doing. I admire what you're doing. I thank you for educating others as you educate yourself, and also just inspiring us to try to look at things in a fresh light.
Oh, hey, thank you so much. Thank you for amplifying Indigenous voices. And anytime you come to New Mexico, you know where to find me. So come on out, sister. And I don't know, maybe come next fall and we'll harvest some Navajo tea together.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. Thank you, Amy, for sharing part of your journey with us and motivating each of us to look within, to look without, and to act for the betterment and good of our neighbors, our communities. Thank you for the beautiful designs you create and the purpose you're helping to provide, while also seeing to livelihoods and hearts and minds. I'm pretty sure we will all look at Mother Earth and Father Sky with a little more reverence after hearing from you today. Make sure you follow Amy on Instagram at Orenda Tribe, and check out the website to learn more at orendatribe.com. I'm going to be posting some of the gorgeous work they make on my pages too, so you can follow me on at Podcast Auto, that's Podcast ADO, and at Steph Hamango. If you're new here, the Another Door Opens podcast is about open doors, open hearts, open minds. It's about celebrating differences and finding common ground at the same time. It's about looking for possibility, educating ourselves, and caring a little more about each other. I invite you to take 30 seconds to rate and review Another Door Opens on Apple Podcasts. That would be a great gift so we can get these stories into more ears. Also, if you want to support the show through Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/anotherdooropens and find some of the options there, starting at $1 a month. My current Patreon supporters, they see some behind the scene pictures, they can ask me questions, they can send me ideas about upcoming podcasts and more. I really can't thank you all enough for your support. Thanks too to Eric Brown, who's drumming you here every week. I love it. That's this week's Another Door Opens episode. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time. Love you. Bye.